Hello, hello, hello. I'm not sure if you heard me. Hi, baby. That's my daughter. I was choking on my water before I came out, but I'm so glad to be here. 5 years ago, I definitely could not have imagined that I would be here, standing on the stage, speaking in front of all of you. You see, I was terrified of public speaking. But there was one topic, one particular issue that made me put my fear aside. I wrote an article about it. I created a presentation about it. I created workshops about it. And that is the mental health impact of parentification on Black women. My name is Montina Galloway, and I am a licensed therapist here in the Charlotte area. And for the past 6 years, I have been collecting data on why Black women have been so drained and so depleted in their life. I even wondered why certain environments would even allow this to happen. Since I could remember, even since I was in high school, I could remember being a listening ear for family and for friends. I was going through an old yearbook the other day, and more than one person wrote, "You've helped me through so much." So that should give you some idea that I am right where I need to be. So adults in the US perceive that Black girls need less nurturing, that Black girls need less protecting, less comforting, and that we're more independent. And so on top of this bias, our families face mounting societal and economic pressures that force Black children, especially Black girls, into the roles that they are not prepared to handle. So though this topic is nuanced and there are a lot of different things to consider, parentification essentially means being a parent to your parent, whether your parent willingly gave up their role or you were forced to perform certain duties for the survival of your family. So I'd like to tell you a story. I'd like to introduce you to someone, actually. I'd like you to meet 12-year-old Michelle. 12-year-old Michelle has been tasked with cooking dinner for her 8-year-old brother, helping him with homework, and cleaning the entire house before her mother returns home from work. Her parents argue constantly about money, about her father's alcohol use, and any other stressor that you can think of. Michelle has even comforted her mother through the aftermath of some of those arguments. No one has even bothered to ask Michelle how she's doing in school, and how her parents' constant arguing has impacted her. She doesn't even remember the last time she played outside with friends or even had joyful memories herself. So now I want to fast forward. It's 15 years later. Michelle is 27 years old. She works double shifts as a home health care nurse, and she can't seem to find the right relationship. She goes from one toxic situationship to the next, where she gives and gives and gives. She often in conversations with her friends, when they talk about what it's like to be a child, when they were a child, she often doesn't have memories. You see, when you experience parentification, over the course of your life, it's like you are assigned a duffel bag. And if you can imagine a duffel bag, it's like you are assigned this duffel bag, and over the course of your life, each time you're not validated, each time you are not comforted when you're in pain, and each time you sacrifice your developmentally appropriate need for the sake of your parents or for the sake of someone else, a new brick is added. And you can imagine can get pretty heavy over time. Now, I must say, there are some pros and cons to the parentification experience. You gain empathy, you get to practice certain life skills, but a lot of the clients that I see are groomed in areas that are psychologically unsafe. They're groomed in families where it's not safe to ask for help. They experience anxiety, depression, frustration, isolation, and even resentment as a result of parentification. There was a study that indicated that there are over 5.4 million children and adolescents in the US that have been supporting a family in their home with health conditions, and that includes mental health conditions. So now I've introduced you to Michelle. I've told you a little bit about her. Let's talk about some of the risk factors that made it possible for Michelle to be parentified. Her parents' high conflict marriage made it impossible for them to be there emotionally for her. And it's quite possible that Michelle's father had an undiagnosed mental illness that led to a substance use disorder. Some other things that impact or make it possible for children to be parentified are unaddressed generational trauma, poverty, incarceration, being in a single parent home, or even a pandemic like COVID-19. You know, when I speak to organizations about psychological safety and how to incorporate an environment where mental health is at the forefront for the organization, I like to incorporate ways to prevent burnout and ways that it's possible for the environment to be safe for people to ask for help. And that is because a child who is parentified often grows up and struggles with workaholism because they've come from an environment where they had to prove their worth. I truly, truly enjoy my work as a therapist. And I often get to see clients deal with the grief associated with the loss of emotional connection with a parent who is still alive. So, here is how you'll know if you've been parentified or if someone else has been parentified, someone you might know. It was your sole responsibility to care for others in your home. You had all of the work, but no power. You played a confidant, a mediator, or a spouse-like role to a parent. You don't remember, or you didn't actually have a childhood. You struggle to know and understand who you are. And the most damaging is that you feel controlled by what others do, think, or feel. So, Black women who are hearing me, Black women who are watching me, I want you to know that it is time. It's time to stop being responsible for everyone else's feelings. It's time to stop being responsible for everyone else's desires. It's time. It's time to put the bag down long enough to sift through it, to see what's yours and to see what's not. So I created a newsletter. It's ironically called The Responsible One. And this newsletter was uniquely created to help those who have kind of been subconsciously carrying the load of other people's. I consider it my love letter to you. And in this newsletter, I help you overcome the damaging effects of parentification, but I'll give you a preview of what's in that newsletter today. So here's how you break the cycle. First, you must have real experiences for yourself. Do the things that you enjoy that don't include being in service to others. You must accept never being fully known, never being fully seen by those around you, sometimes even those closest to you. And lastly, you must learn how to build and learn how to maintain relationships that do not require you to sacrifice yourself. Oftentimes, clients come to therapy and they know that something just isn't right. They are ready to go through the bricks that are in the duffel bag of defense mechanisms and feeling invisible and toxic codependent relationship patterns. Again, they're going through what's theirs and what's not. So, those of you who live, those of you who work or learn with a Black woman, when you leave here today, I want you to practice this. Don't automatically assume that she's got it. Don't automatically assume that she can handle it. And again, for those Black women hearing me, it's time. See yourself as worthy. Take the time to put the duffel bag down and go through what's yours and what's not, and leave the rest. Thank you.